Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. Today I'm delighted to chat with Ishan Khanna. He's a student I've known since 2008-9 when his sister was applying to college maybe, and then later on when he decided to apply. He graduated from Loyola Marymount University in 2018,
16.
16, yes.
Yeah.
And it's been an interesting journey following your work, especially all the cool entrepreneurial activities which you did while you were at LMU, while pursuing an information systems degree, and then later on landing a very interesting job in the investment and immigration sort of areas in the US. So, first things first, how was it like when you were thinking of applying to LM or rather choosing LMU when you finally had offers? And what did you expect when you landed in LA? How did the experience pan out over a few months and then the 4 years?
Sure. So I'll talk first starting, I guess, with the admissions and the application process and all that. So back in 2011, 2012, I started by making just a list of the different colleges that I wanted to go to. So I first thing I knew was I knew what I wanted to study, which was I wanted to do something in information technology, but I didn't want to do hardcore computer science. I didn't want to be a coder. But I still wanted but I still had an interest in IT and in business, so I wanted to do something with that combination. So I picked information management systems. I looked at some of the schools that offered this program. I started breaking them down as far as the colleges I could get into with the kind of grades that I had, along with my dream colleges and your mid range and the backups and all of that. So I got into a couple of colleges, and I remember right towards the end. In fact, Arjun, I don't know if you remember this. We had this conversation in my living room when I was debating between Syracuse University and LMU, and both are very, very good schools. Both have great information systems programs, but one college was in it was in New York State. Like Syracuse was in New York. Just it was a big school, very opposite to what LMU is. LMU is a small school in a big city in LA, very close to downtown, and pretty much it's a closed off campus. And unlike Syracuse, which was
It's a small
obviously
city.
way
It's not,
larger,
yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely
Yeah,
not,
it's
yeah,
a small,
not a
yeah,
LA.
small town
Yeah.
and all that. So, I wanted to be in a small school for the primary reason that I didn't want to just be a number in the class. I liked LMU because the average class size was less than 30 kids per class, and as you go into senior year and stuff, obviously it gets smaller and smaller from there. And also, I just wanted to be in a school where knowing that my opportunities and especially employment opportunities after college were easily attainable. And I'll kind of explain this specifically because I feel this deserves a bit more attention. So, going to LMU, I guess the biggest advantage is the location. I was in Los Angeles when I was applying for summer internships, jobs after college, anything like that. The city of LA was right there next to me. I could travel all around there to go for job interviews, meet people in person, do all of that. My very first internship that I did in the US was with a company called Cloud Access. They're an IT software security firm in Wilshire Boulevard or in LA. And I know that it was a small company, not something easily attainable. And I think the fact that I was in that city, that I was able to go there, meet with the CEO, actually have those in-person conversations, helped me get my first internship. Just like that, my junior year, I got an internship with Edmunds.com. They're like Kelly's Blue Book, or they're like Auto Trader. They're basically a car listing website, and it was hard to get that internship. And I remember going for like two rounds of interviews, and I think the fact that just because it was in person, because the employees over there knew the school that I came from, and just the fact that I was able to have a way better interaction with them, it helped me essentially get that internship. I was against candidates from way better schools with better experience than me, and I feel like that definitely helped a lot. Same, I guess, same could be
So
said for my
being in the right place and using the
yeah,
opportunities not just of the university but extending it to the city that you're in. Uh,
exactly.
Definitely. So what about the academics though? The journey, did it pan out the way you thought it would? Choosing information sciences was not the first thing that you thought of, or was it something that you always thought of doing?
it became that whole thought of wanting to do information systems versus a standard business degree or a standard computer science degree really came to light, I guess, when I was in a class 12. I don't. I know this is not the typical situation for most people because their thoughts and their desires, change over time. Especially when they're in college, they might go from one major to the other. It was not like that for me. I wanted to do information systems when I came into school, and I finished school doing information systems, getting a Bachelor of Science exactly the way I was hoping for it, what I wanted. Um, the academics itself, it was obviously tough as every college is. What I think helped me do well in university, I think I would have to credit that towards the IB system that I did in class 11 and 12. I did the IB diploma program, and a lot of the skills that I learned in those classes I was able to carry forward in university and actually handle the academics and all well.
And how did your academics then segue into some of the choices you made running a startup while you were in college and then even beyond? How do you
So
apply
yeah,
what you're learning in real life?
great question. So, around, I believe, sophomore or junior year of college, I was actually approached by a couple of seniors who were embarking on this little startup that they had. They wanted to do this peer-to-peer college tutoring app. Um, they essentially wanted to make an Uber for tutoring. This is right around the time when the whole peer-to-peer economy was getting really big. And they asked me to come on board, and I essentially joined them as a product manager. um, I guess I essentially gave myself the role of a CTO. I basically handled the creation of the product, the design of it, all of that, how it would work, how the backend systems would work, and all of that. And this essentially became my baby for the next couple of years. We started an S corp, we did all the whole thing, and eventually we did get a little bit of funding, crash and burn like most startups did, but it was a great learning experience for me, and I think it looks fantastic on my resume too. So just having that experience of starting my own company, building my own product, launching it, getting users, failing spectacularly, all of that was a great experience. And I think a lot of that, it has to be influenced by was definitely influenced by my business and IT background that I gained doing the information systems degree at LMU.
Great. So, if you were to give any advice to student entrepreneurs from the learning that you had, what would you say are the few things to sort of do right?
Student entrepreneurs. Man, well, the first kind of advice I want to give is uh, understand the difference between a entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur requires you to give up a lot of things in your life. Like, I mean, not to get too personal here, but around when I actually started working on the startup and actually started getting heavily vested into it, I had to give up a lot of the other activities that I was doing. I gave up, I was part of a fraternity in college, kind of gave that up. I was part of some clubs and all that, kind of put that away, push that all to the side, solely focusing on my academics and the startup. uh, you have to be able to put in that amount of work if this is something you want to do. I also and which is also why I want to highlight the fact of being a entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, if you, a lot of people want to start their own venture, a lot of people want to start it, but when it comes down to actually putting in the work, it's hard, and that's totally fine too. A lot of people that I in fact, like, sometimes feel like I missed out on that 1 year of college experience when I could have been out, going out on Saturday nights, like going to the parties, like going and like doing extracurricular activities, when instead I'm just sitting away in the business lab, writing away lines of instructions and code and stuff for my development team. I mean, it was a lot of hard work. And some people could say that, hey, your startup actually crashed and burned, so did it pay off? Those are questions that I ask myself. So this is so this being an entrepreneur, starting your own venture, something you want to do, be prepared to put in the grind that's required for it, and it's totally okay not to do that route too. I in fact think that if I hadn't done that and if I just focused on other things, I would have also been completely fine. I would have gained a different kind of experience, but I would have gained experience nonetheless if I had maybe done a part-time job or something else like that. uh,
Fascinating.
so
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is
So
interesting. So, but if you were to reflect and say, okay, these are the people who have become influences in my life, and sort of I connect with people you follow who could be entrepreneurs or even otherwise, who help you develop a certain mindset towards failure, towards trying new things, putting in your best. Do you follow, or do you have some authors in mind, people in mind who you think could be useful for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs to know of?
um I actually am not a big fan of like following influencers and all of that, just because their situation can vary vastly from yours. So I'll give you an example as far as my situation went when I was, starting my own startup. I'm an international student, right? So I'm a citizen of India studying in a foreign country, wanting to start a venture there. There are so many rules and regulations in place that it actually makes starting up for a foreign a startup dream for a foreign national is extremely hard to actually achieve unless you know what you're doing. So when I would talk and when I would like look up all these influencers who would be like, oh, you should do this, do that, a lot of things didn't even apply to me because I couldn't do them. Whether it was like saying taking a certain position in the company, or filing as an LLP versus an LLC, just little things like that. It's it's not a lot of the same rules aren't applicable to you as they are to other people. The people that have influenced me and that helped me were actually specific members, specific alumni from either my school, my university, or from my high school, that essentially made it, um, whose situations were similar to mine. Those people I feel like have had the biggest impact uh, on me, as far as has inspired me. I would say even
Got it.
Arjun, even you in a way inspired me with your hustle, and the kind of students that you bring in, and the influence that you've created and the community that you've built is I'd say is remarkable, because a lot of I would say that by in itself is inspirational. So I would the advice that I would give, as far as looking for inspiration and looking for mentors or anything like that, look for people who are in the similar situation or come from similar backgrounds as you, and that have succeeded and have made it, and look at what they've done. A lot of one of the best conversations I've ever had is with somebody that graduated from the same school as me, went to the US, studied, tried to make things work, tried to get a work visa, didn't work out, came back on after a certain thing. He went through a lot of struggles, and he made a lot of mistakes that he eventually ended up telling me, and I learned so much from that. And I feel like that takes away that takeaway definitely helped me massively.
Super. So let's change things up, make it more
Mhm.
rapid fire. I have a few questions in mind.
Shoot.
Uh, First is, if imagine that you were a college student, maybe in your senior year or starting your senior year. Now you've graduated, you can sort of have the luxury of sort of redoing things. Uh, and COVID has hit
Yeah.
campus, and campuses might not open soon. Uh, if they did reopen and everything went back to normal magically, what would you do more at LMU, or if you're in any college? What advice would you give students to make the most out of college?
To make the most out of college, I would say get involved. That is the most important thing. Get involved in clubs, get involved in organizations, socialize, network, do all of that. Most importantly, be the staff members that help you and that guide you. Keep in touch with them. Uh, some of the best advice, or some of the best talks or communications that I've had is with people who have been in the education field for a long time. So just like, for example, the head of the international office at my school was extremely helpful to me when it came to post graduation planning for my immigration options and things like that. She got me in touch with a couple of immigration law firms, one of whom I actually used to file my visa petition and things like that. um, I think that just being involved on campus and being in touch with your professors, and letting them know who you are, what you do, what you're interested in helps. There may be a research opportunity or something that might crop out of it. There may be a network event or something that you may get invited to, where you might meet someone who'll be massively influential in your life. So take
Fantastic.
advantage of
Yeah.
everything that has to offer. like I mentioned earlier, that LMU is in a city, so I was able to go out and do a lot of things. If you have that option, utilize it. Go explore the local city. Go around. I mean, if there's a cool startup in your area or something like that, maybe set up an informational interview or something with one of the owners or something like that, and maybe you can go see them and get yourself known. So, like, I remember, I think it was like a freshman, sophomore year of college. I actually applied. I was planning to apply for an interview at Snapchat for an internship position. Never ended up getting it, but I set up an informational interview with one of the managers there because he graduated from the same college that I did. Took a 15-minute Uber ride there, got there, had a quick conversation, got to shake some hands, got some new connections on my LinkedIn. Didn't really help much, but that was a really cool experience. Gave me an exposure to a startup that was young and growing, and now they've obviously grown massively.
Fantastic. So you've already sort of answered my next question, because I can deduce what strengths you have, but I want to hear it from you. If you were to pick three adjectives, three words that describe your strengths, what would they be?
Oh, three strengths. Three particular strengths. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm organized.
Yeah, with all your gadgets around you, it seems
Yeah.
that you definitely know what's happening in the world of podcasting. I'd love to know more about that.
Sure. I do a lot of webinars and stuff. That's why all this equipment. I guess another strength would be compassionate. I do think one of the biggest. I was a right after college. My first job was product management, and product management essentially is creating apps in the tech world. Is more to do with the creation and the building of apps or essentially products. And one of the biggest traits that you require is to have empathy for your users. And I was forced to learn compassion for people in that particular field. So I definitely say that's one of my other strengths. And I guess the last one I would have to say is observant. I think that's an important strength, especially in this world. Nowadays the job that I do requires me to peruse through a lot of legal documents and see what people are writing and putting in and know what's put out there. And having a skill of being meticulous and attention to detail is important. And I'd say that's finally a strength that I've definitely added to my arsenal.
Great. Now, just a message to students who are stuck in a limbo. Like, what is it that you think they could do to deal with uncertainty? The kids who just graduated from college or graduated from high school. Something from your experiences, we've known that you've dealt with failure, different situations.
Sure.
And obviously, life doesn't always sort of become certain in terms of going from point A to point B. There are several detours. What message would you give people who are a bit disappointed with what's going on?
With everything going on, yeah. So I'll break this up into three groups of people essentially that are facing this, because I actually have been talking to a few of my friends who are either graduating or graduated from college and are facing a massive uncertainty. So for those people who are in high school right now, who are still in school, you're between your first and 12th grade, your class 1 to class 12, you're somewhere in the middle of that, and you're looking at maybe studying abroad and things like that. Continue on your path. Moments like these in the world have happened. Pandemics have happened before in the world and have taken lots of lives, and the economy's been impacted and all of that. This isn't anything new. Stay safe, work hard, try to get into further education of your choice. If you want to take a gap year, I guess that's an option too. But really, this should not actually affect your plans that much. Now, for the next group of people, if you're in college currently, the world looks extremely uncertain right now. Jobs after college and all is definitely a concern. Summer internships are a concern. All of that stuff is definitely problematic. My best advice to you is add value to yourself. Find something to do. I know plenty of people now who, even though they may have lost internship opportunities or are going through struggles of their own, they're managing to maybe get like an online internship. Some are independent contractors and trying to, do jobs online, whether it's like, small graphic design or something. Whatever skill that you have, you can build on it or use it in a way to, gain some experience, whether it's work experience or anything like that. I remember there was a period of time when after graduating college, when I was unemployed for about 6 months, and I remember just sitting at home in Delhi, just like twiddling my thumbs and not doing anything at all. So I took some Google Analytics classes online. I learned some extra skills that I could add to myself that may be useful in the future. So those are the kind of things right now that you can absolutely do. Once college campuses open up, same thing. Try to find to do activities that add value to yourself as well. Now, to the final group and to the most important ones, those who are graduating in essentially May of 2020, uh, things are very bad right now. I can't sugarcoat this. Um, I've had a lot of my friends reach out to me saying, "Hey, like I've been struggling. I've been, sending my resume out as hard as I can. I have a separate cover letter for every single job I'm applying to. I'm following all the tips and advice out there. I'm still not getting anywhere. Things are bad. I can't, there's really not a lot that I can say. If you're studying or planning to work in the US, this may have immigration ramifications as well. You may not be able to stay in this country. You may have to leave. You may not be able to get an ideal job that you want, or may not be able to advance in your career the way you thought you wanted to. Every situation is different. Talk to people. Look at the different options that you have. There's different routes. You could maybe take a year off and go travel somewhere once travel is open, and maybe find learn some new skills. I have a friend who basically was working for a hedge fund in New York, and now with things going to hell, he's basically decided that as soon as COVID is over, he's going to go work at a restaurant and just like pick up some sushi making skills or learn how to cook or something like that. Realizing that the world isn't what it's going to be, it's perfectly fine to diversify and look at different options for yourself and how you can build it. If there is a scenario where you have to say leave the US and go back to India or something like that, that's okay too. There may be opportunities available for you in India that you can capitalize on. It's also totally okay to continue to build on your education. If you thought maybe you're going to do a master's program in a year, 2 years maybe later, it's okay to bring that forward and do it now. The world isn't fair, and it's not going to be fair to you, especially with everything that's going on. But then you have to actually take the initiative and make moves yourself to
Well said. Yeah, I think
maximize your time right now.
that's absolutely pearls of wisdom. Face the reality, deal with it now. Don't procrastinate. Do something about it. And yes, so why not even advance your grad school plans, because you could sit out most of the recession or whatever you have in place. At the same time, I feel you've been very honest with your response to this question, so that's going to be very useful for our listeners listening in. We will be organizing webinars on topics related to options to sort of retool as well as reimagine how you can educate yourself. Love to invite you on that panel, Ishan.
Sure,
so delighted to have had this conversation. So thank you for your time. And in the next session we'd probably get to understand more about your work and which is very much related to immigration through the investor visa route. But that we'll leave it for a next session. Thank you, and signing out for now.
Thanks.